So, although the number of coronavirus affected patients are resurging in Japan, it seems clear that Japan wouldn't go into a state of lockdown like in the United States or in Europe. And I know many people outside Japan are kind of wondering why Japanese society is not going into a lockdown situation. If you come to Tokyo now, you see a reduced number of commuters, but they are still riding on the packed commuter trains, and there's no sign of people, locking themselves up in houses. Although, of course, restaurants and bars and izakayas places are either closed or they have shortened the operation time, and the cinemas and theaters are closed. But otherwise, things appear to be pretty normal in Japan, which is a far cry from the state of affairs in Europe and in the United States. So one may wonder why Japan is adopting this particular policy. Well, one of the explanations offered in here is that the Japanese people are kind of obedient, and they, if the government suggests a particular line of actions, they follow, sometimes in excess. So if the government asks the Japanese people to stay away from each other to avoid three condensed situations, which the Japanese government calls sanmitsu, three very close condensed situations. Avoid these things, and the government says that, and the Japanese people follow that. Sometimes even overinterprets it, and do something more than the Japanese government asks. So possibly the fact that the Japanese government is not imposing a strict lockdown like in other nations is due to the fact that Japanese people are very apt at interpreting the mere suggestions of actions and take it seriously, and doing it in excess by themselves. So that might actually explain the lack of lockdown in Japan. On the other hand, people argue that the Japanese government actually doesn't have the authority or legal background to ask its citizens to lock themselves up like in other nations. So Japan had really tough experience in during the Second World War, when the government controlled every aspect of people's lives. So, and of course, Japan lost the Second World War. So, in the post-war period, yeah, the Japanese government has been very reluctant, and people have been kind of, shy of granting the government authority or power to impose a certain lifestyle on its people. So there could be two explanations really. One, the really obedient characteristics of the Japanese population. Two, the fact that in the post-World War period, the Japanese government has not had the authority to impose strict regulations on its people. So these two factors, a combination of these two factors, probably explain why Japan is not imposing strict lockdown as in other nations. Um, we don't know what this would lead to. Would the Japanese be able to contain coronavirus outbreak based on this soft approach to social distancing? We don't yet know, but we'll see. Um, but the you know situation atmosphere in Tokyo is, I think, of that of cautious optimism. We are cautiously optimistic that we would be able to overcome this situation, even though we are not imposing strict measures like in other nations. So we'll see. Fingers crossed for all the people in the world, living in different regions and nations, living under different calls for actions, and all the best for people who are living in a strict lockdown orders. So all the best.